Come on in, pull up a chair, and take a load off because today I will be reviewing Crowbar, the Rangers at Pointe Du Hoc from Flying Pig Games. So, is this a must own solitaire push your luck war game? Or if you purchase this, will you simply be out of luck? Well, you'll find out right after this. Howdy, howdy, howdy. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host once again here at the Gaming Gang channel. As I mentioned in the open, tonight I am going to share how to play and review Crowbar from Flying Pig Games. It is designed by my good pal Herman Lettman with artwork provided by Tim Allen. The game is for 1 to 4 players, ages 10 and up, plays in 90 minutes to 2 hours, and is available right now for an MSRP of $95 from the Flying Pig Games website. So let's swing on over to the other camera. I will share how to play Crowbar, the Rangers at Pointe Du Hoc. All right, so I have Crowbar, the Rangers at Pointe Du Hoc, kind of set up. I don't have the whole game set up, but I do have enough set up so I can show you pretty much the main points of the actual gameplay. I'm not going to get into every single tiny little combat modifier or anything like that. I'm just going to give you an overview of the game, give you an idea how to play the game, and what I think of it as we kind of take a look at different things. So first off, I've already done an unboxing video. We took a peek at pretty much all the components, but I will kind of recap fairly quickly. So first off, we had the board, which is broken up pretty much into 3 areas. There's actually more of the board this way. We will see more of that as I kind of shift this down, as I kind of show you how the game proceeds. So the board is nicely done, very nice stock as far as holding up to play. I like the look of it. I think the art is very, very cool. And artwork on the counters as well is really nice. So graphically, really like the look of the game itself. Component wise, really nicely done. There are a couple of things that I have little quibbles with. They're not huge, but I will point them out. When I do my review score, you will see that those quibbles are minor. But anyway, so the board is nice. Counters are really good. Nice chunky counters, nice big counters. So I always like that. That is something that we see quite a bit of with the Flying Pig game releases as well. We do have some event cards. The card stock is pretty nice. And of course, if you're going to be playing this a lot, I always recommend sleeve your cards. Now, there are some additional cards that were part of, I believe it was a Kickstarter exclusive. I don't know if it's still an exclusive, if you can pick them up through the Flying Pig Games website or not. There's also even an additional die, activation die or action die, that was an exclusive too. I'll talk about it, but it's not in the standard game. The rule book itself, really nicely done, well put together. I didn't have any problems figuring any of this out. Plenty of examples of play. And in fact, there's a nice detailed example of play at the end, as well as a copy of President Reagan's speech at Pointe Du Hoc back in 1984. So nicely done. A lot of images in here too. So to be honest, I think this is probably my favorite Flying Pig game rulebook that I've seen so far. Everything was really, really clear and got, pretty concise to the point. I mean, a lot of, gamers who play casual games are going to see, wait a second, 24 pages of rules, and oh my goodness. It's fairly easy to wrap your head around. So very nicely done. We do also have a couple of play aids. So we have the pretty much the play aid right here, both sides. This really lays out just about everything to the game right here in front of you. So once you kind of get the handle on basically the core aspects of the game, You're going to be able to play just by using your little cheat sheet, almost, your play aid here. And we also have the German events. We also have Ranger events because we do have event chits that will be drawn to create some chaos, some randomness. I always like to joke around. Herman, King of Chaos, or Chaos is King, Lutman. Herman likes to put a lot of randomness, a lot of chaos into his game designs. But there is a method to the madness. It's not simply there for the sake of being there. It really boosts the replayability of many of his designs. Speaking of designs, this actually began, this style of game actually began with his Victory Point game release in magnificent style. It was a push your luck war game where you were simulating Pickett's charge at Gettysburg and you were in control of the Confederate forces. So, of course, if you have played that, some of this will be a little familiar, but there is loads and loads that is been ramped up and added to the design. We also will have, set off to the side of the board, you're going to be tracking some different information. Unfortunately, this is only paper. This is one of the quibbles. I would have liked to have seen this on cardstock like we have for the player aids, but this is simply just paper. So we're actually going to have our day track. We begin June 6th. We also have a time track, time increment track. So as these turns move, we go through 18 turns. That's going to be the first day. We would move this down here, go through another 18. We go down to June 8th. And then if we get to the 12th turn on June 8th, the game will end. There's also another way the game ends, and that is when the relief column arrives. So you're going to track the relief column. There are event cards that are going to move this along. You could actually have it move back as well. Once this relief column marker gets to this point, the game's going to end. You are going to track German counterattacks. So we also have event cards that are going to move the German counterattack. And once it gets to this point, the Germans kind of activate and start attacking, moving to you, attacking you. They take the offensive. We also have a victory point track. We get victory points for different things. First of all, the mission of the Rangers is to find these artillery pieces, knock them out so that they can't fire on the landing forces at D-Day. So that is your main objective. You also receive victory points for German POWs. So when you eliminate German units, you get victory points for POWs. Not losing units for the Rangers will get you bonus victory points. Capturing the guns, if you get all of them on the 6th, you get 110 victory points. So you're looking at, you get times 10 victory points. Why did I say 110? So it's going to give you a multiplier for victory points. You get fortunes of war as well as casualties. So as the casualties mount, you're going to end up with fewer victory points for that. And like I said, but if you don't lose any of the Ranger units, you will get bonus victory points. So this stays off onto the side. I'm going to move this out of the way because we're not going to need it again. But that is how you're going to track passage of time and your victory points as I knock a bunch of stuff around, a bunch of these counters around. So the main gist of the game is moving the Rangers in their landing crafts from the sea to the beaches, scaling the cliffs. These are 100-foot high cliffs, and then fighting the Germans and reconnoitering, trying to find those artillery pieces and knocking them out. So you'll notice that we've got these stars here on the board. We have 1, 2, and 3 star squares. Not every square is going to have stars, but we actually will use these hidden gun placement counters to mark that. And then when we get there, see, for an example, that would be a gun. So 2 stars would mean, okay, you actually take 2 of the counters. 1 star would be you would have one of the counters. You have German forces get set up, different machine gun placements. We've got bunkers. We've got flak guns. We've got a lot of different defenders. And then, of course, we have the gun placement locations. Now, one thing I will want to point out, and I don't think the camera's going to really pick this up, but unfortunately, there is a little bit of a different color to the side of the counter that has guns as opposed to things that are something different. So what that means, it's not super obvious, but your eye can pick it out. So all I did is I take an opaque container and I'm going to toss in these, and whenever we reach a location, I just reach in and I take out a couple of these counters. So we got dummy guns, and then, oh, well, there will be guns. So just pointing that out. So there you go. There's another little tiny critique, is that for some strange reason, the backing of the counters that have guns has a little different color to it. A little color scheme, actually, is what it is. So if you're really paying attention, you can tell. So, sorry. All right, we have the event cards. I'll explain those in a few moments. But anyway, so the main gist of the game is you've got these action dice. And you're going to be pushing your luck as far as trying to get up the cliffs and, of course, move inland and fighting the Germans. Now, one thing I do want to point out, just like in Magnificent Style, or in Magnificent Style, I guess I'll say, the units have to remain in their columns. So you see we've got a grid here. It's also broken up into columns. We got rows and columns. So as this Ranger unit continues moving along, it's going to stay in their column. Now, they can move forward in the column, they can move back in the column, but they are going to stay in this column. They're all going to have a rally point counter as well, because, like I said, you're pushing your luck. Something bad can happen and force you back to your rally point, which is effectively, it can be where you began your turn, or it could be where you began a few turns ago. And I'll kind of explain that as well. So what we're basically doing is we're rolling these dice. We've got 3 different dice. And notice we have these boxes here that are supposed to hold the dice, but they have the wrong color combination. So this and the fact that these counters have a little bit of different backing just looks like a bit of a production mistake. That's all. I mean, that's really all it is. And it's, easily rectified. I was sent, this sticker. I'm supposed to put this sticker on the board, but because the way the board is cut here, it goes through like part of one of the squares, I just keep this sticker. It's easy enough, right? So we've got a green, a yellow, a red, and a black die. We do have that extra blue one, which was the exclusive. This is actually the least risky of the dice. But as far as what comes with the core game, going from least risky to riskiest, it's green, yellow, red, and black. So what you'll end up doing is, when you activate your units, you're going to activate your companies at one time. So each company has 4 units to start off with. So here we've got Fox, Dog, Easy Company. These are the landing craft. Underneath is what we've got. We've got units, we got supplies, we got commanders, all underneath these landing craft. So effectively what we're trying to do is we're trying to move our units without taking hits, without having to draw event cards, and hopefully not getting a route result, which is that little black die with the little running character on it. So what you'll end up doing is, at the beginning, in the C phase, because it's almost like we've got a little bit of a mini game here. Kind of, I don't want to say a mini game. There's a challenge here, and then we get into the meat and potatoes of the game once we move inward into France. So what you're going to do at the start is you're going to actually roll dice until you hit this line here, or until one of two things happen. So let's say, for an example, I'm going to activate Dog Company here, and I'm going to activate this landing craft here. So you only get to roll each of these dice once. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to roll my green. Let me get the little box here. Move this stuff out of the way. I'm going to roll my green die, and I get to advance 1. And this would indicate that I would pull a event shit, one of the event shits out of here, which once again, we got Lego Batman doing duty as an opaque container. We've got different events. We've got Ranger events, which are that color, and we've got German events, which are that color. And if we have an R on the die, that means we are going to pull a Ranger event. As I showed you before, we do have the Ranger event chart here. We got the German event chart here. And it tells us exactly what's going on. So we could have paratroopers join us. We could have French resistance. We could have support fire from destroyers out at sea. Of course, then we also have some German events that are not good for the Rangers. So this is my currently active unit. We got to advance 1. So we're going to keep rolling dice until he hits the beach or until he gets a stop or a different event. Okay, so here we go. We got another move 1. Now at sea, we are not utilizing any of these R and Gs for those event shits. No event shits take place at sea. So we're going to get to move another one. So we're going to roll our red die. Okay, so we move 2, so we're gonna hit the beach, but we took a hit. So you see we've got this little explosion on the die. That's gonna show us that we take a variable hit. So depending on what's going on is gonna determine what that variable hit means. So if we're at sea, if we're on the beach, or if we're inland. And the cool thing is, right here on our chart, it shows us everything that's going on. So it'll tell us, oh, okay, so I get 1 variable hit. So in a sea space, 1 hit on carried Ranger unit, except in C2 or 3. So we are actually in C2 when that happens. C2, we have right there, it tells us it's C2. As in the C, not the letter C. So it'd say, okay, well, if you're in C2 or 3, then this is hit instead. So this is now damaged. Whoops. So this would be a damaged landing craft, which at this point, we don't mind. We're cool with this because we're still going to hit the beach because of this die roll. So we're going to get up here on the beach. We don't need the landing craft anymore. Now, here we've got Dog Company. The unit has a strength of 10. And we also have Captain Slater, who's the commander of Dog Company, with them as well. So I'll do that. So the next thing I would be looking to do is I'm going to reload my dice. Now, when I end my turn, when I first hit the beach, I have to roll to see what happens with our rocket-propelled grapple, which were not very effective. So we have to roll 2 dice. And we get nothing. So, stinks. Okay, womp, 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 womp. Now, we can actually use an action to try to get a better result on our next turn. So what we're going to do here is we're going to show that they're activated and place that right there. Because we can consolidate. So the last thing we get to do is consolidate as long as we didn't get a stop sign or a route. And one of the things we can do is actually move our rally point up. So I'm going to put that activated right here. Now, if for some reason we weren't able to do that, I would actually just, where I have the rally point, say we're in land or something, I would just flip the rally point over to activated like that. So I still know that's where their rally point is. All right, so anyway, so we know they've activated. So we're going to go through the next for Dog Company. And maybe we roll a yellow stop sign. Well, that's as far as they're going to get on their turn. So we could consolidate, move our rally point up, and have them activated. So the first part of the game is you're trying to get up onto the beach. As soon as you get up onto the beach, you're going to roll 2 6-sided dice. And effectively, this first time out, you're looking for a 12 to get a firm hold. So for an example, if we had a 12, we would put a firm. It means the grapple was up there. Wow, really nicely done. It worked really well. So all we need is 1 advance on our next turn to actually move into here. If we had shaky, that would mean we would have to get 2 advances to move into here. And if we have none, we have to get 3 advances to get up here. So at this point, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. So once we've got our units up onto the beaches, what we can do is we also have the ability to do special actions, and we can spend an advance as a special action. And there's different things we can spend these special actions for. One of them is actually to try to get a better grappling attempt. So the projectors stink. So we get a 9 to 11 gives us a shaky, and a 12 gives us a firm hold. We can also use a grappling attempt as an action. So once we were to go through our entire turn, once we've activated, moved all these guys, done whatever happened, now it's possible these landing craft could be destroyed. And if you're not up on the beach, whatever's on that landing craft is lost. And it can be kind of tricky because your units have to stay within these columns. They cannot move out of these columns. So we're looking at this unit from Dog Company is going to come up here, up through this column. Now, you can fire at, you can actually fire at units that aren't in your column, but you must stay in your column. There is something where if you like lost a unit, or if you want to reinforce a unit, you can actually transfer strength points from one unit to the next. And of course, we've got all these other counters I'm keeping off to the side for me to like trade out. So for an example, if they lose a point of strength, you're going to flip that over to 9. If they lost another strength, you would have to replace them. Watch, I probably don't even have, there we go. So they'd be down to 8. And so on and so forth. Now, if I had to, I could say, okay, well, I'm going to make both of these 9 by using an advance action. Of course, I wouldn't do something like that because that's kind of silly. But that's kind of give you an idea on different things that you can do outside of you're only pushing to advance. I'm going to get some of this stuff out of the way, and I'm going to move this board over a little bit. So, and we're just going to take a few of these units, and I'm going to show you how combat actually works. So I have to get a bunch of this stuff out of the way. This, like I said, this is a good sized board. Oh, I should point out too, I did mention it, but at the end of every turn, you are going to move this time increment track. Now, I might as well show you, because I'm going to zoom in anyway as I move this board over. Before I move the board over, I kind of zoom in a little bit, get a better look at some of these counters. All right, that still looks nice and sharp. And I'm going to show you the different faces of the dice, kind of give you an idea of what's going on. All right, so as I mentioned already, you see there's a little square up there. It's got an arrow. That means it's an advance. You're advancing 1 square. Same here. Like I said, this is the least risky die. This basically means we're going to take an event card. And the event cards, a lot of times, So for an example here, we got the relief column advances. We would take our counter that's on here and we would move it over. So first we have D-Day invasion approach, landing at Omaha Beach, fighting on the beaches. So we're moving this along. So once again, as I mentioned, once we get the relief column here, game will end. We also have time increment. So for an example, if we roll one of these and it tells us, okay, take an event card, that's going to move the time increment one more. So that's in addition. There we go. That'd be in addition to what we would do at the end of the turn. So it's possible we get some event cards, another time increment. We've got some that are 2, but allows us to advance one of our ranger units, 1. So you're going to be eating up time. It's not just going to be you're going to have 18 turns in the first day. You're going to have 18 time increments that move along. So it's possible that if you keep getting, like 2s out of your events, you're going to have to start really pushing your luck. So that's one of the aspects of the design I really like, is that if you play it safe and you're sticking to like rolling green dice and maybe the yellow die, you're not gonna take losses as quickly as if you're pushing your luck. But the thing is, you're gonna waste too much time. You're gonna see too much time eaten away. So I like the fact that the design forces you to make decisions on how important is it for me to actually try to get these guys moving along. And it's kind of funny too, because you're going to get to the point where especially early on, where you're still going to have some units out in the sea. You're going to have some units already up here on land. Got some on the beach. So it's pretty interesting. What you want to try to do is you want to try to keep your units adjacent if possible. I'm going to show you some stuff as far as the combat as I move this over, get some of this stuff out of the way, because otherwise I'm going to knock it all on the floor as I move the board. All right, so moving this right along. Let's get here. Okay, let's get up on land. So there's more to the board beyond this too. So remember I had mentioned that we actually have the different stars indicating how many of these potential gun locations, how many counters they get. We've got up in a corner up here, is at the edge of the board. We have some 3-star locations, which is historically where the Rangers did find the guns. To show you that I'd have to move this board all over the place. But I am pointing out that it is up there in a grove of trees in like a forested area. So I've got these German units out here. There's really no rhyme or reason to what I've got sitting out here. But in the beginning of the game, you'll also have the ability to lay down some incoming fire, which effectively represents the bombing, the pre-invasion bombing that took place. So you're going to roll a 6-sided die. You're going to add 10 to it, and that's how many of these counters you're going to get. Now, they are dual-sided, and it is very, very random what could happen with these counters. So, for an example, we've got some misses, got a bunch of misses, 2 hits. So what you end up doing is the Germans are already going to be set out here. So you're going to drop down these counters. Remember, you're not going to know what's on them, what they represent, because they're flipped over this side. But you're going to drop off as many of these as 10 plus the roll of a 6-sided die. So you would just be kind of trying to soften these up a little bit as far as when you attack. So let's say let's get rid of some of these units that are right here on the edge of the cliff, and let's bring these guys up. And let's just, for the heck of it, let's toss down some grenadiers. So we got dog company down here. So as far as combat goes, anytime we get an advance roll and we are adjacent to an enemy unit, we can enter into close combat. Also, your commander, once again, as I mentioned, we've got these different special moves that we can make by spending an advance. If we have an advance, we can spend the advance doing a special action. Your company commander, and there's also a battalion commander. Your company commander can issue different special orders as well. One of them is to open fire with an open fire command or order, which means it's ranged combat. And of course, you're looking at your player aid is going to tell you what's going on with close combat. It's going to show you what goes on with open fire combat. So open fire combat is basically you're not fighting with, close combat. You're not engaged right next to an enemy unit. And one thing that's kind of cool is, for example, if I had things set up like this, and I move and I'm going to assault them in close combat, because I have my unit here, that unit's considered to be flanked. So I would get an advantage for that. So with open fire combat, you're basically going to be rolling dice. And what you're looking at, you're going to roll as many dice as half of the strength, rounded up, of the unit. So for an example, this is a full strength for dog company, so 10, so I would get to roll 6 dice. Wait, 6, 5 dice. How the hell did I get 6? What am I thinking? Actually, I was looking at a counter over here that's a strength of 6. So I would roll 5 dice. Ooh, wow, that's really good. So 6s are hits. 5s are half hits. And a 4 is a morale change. So in a situation like this, I would actually have done 3 hits in open fire, right, to this unit here. Well, they can only take 2 hits. So one flips them over, reduces their strength, and the other hit takes them out. So they were a full strength unit when I first attacked them, and they were wiped out. So I get German POWs for this. So we actually capture some of the stragglers and some of the wounded. So this I would put on my stack on this sheet here as far as POWs, because I'm going to get victory points for that. If they were reduced and then I eliminated them, so if they started my attack with a reduced side and then I eliminated, they would go here for victory points. So once again, as I mentioned, that's an aspect of the game itself where you're not just looking to take out the gun batteries, you're looking to inflict casualties on the German defenders as well. So if we go into close combat, say for an example, I'm here and I got an advance, say just get an advance like that, I would say, okay, so I'm moving into close combat, same thing. You're going to roll the same dice. So I get half. They also get to attack me too. So I would get to roll 5 dice. See, this one's not as good. So I would do 1 hit. Because remember, 5s are worth half a hit. And then the German actually rolls. And they would get a 5 and a 1. So they do a half a hit. There's no carryover. So I get nothing. So I don't get any damage. They took a hit. So that would be like so. And then what you're going to look at is, so what's going to happen here? So because I inflicted a hit on them, they didn't do anything to me. They have to retreat. I actually get that. So they're reduced and they're going to retreat. Now it's possible that we could just have given them like a bunch of reductions in morale. say for an example, we got something like that. So that would be 2 steps of morale, and they didn't roll any 4s against us. That means they would actually have to retreat further because of their difference in morale. But for an example, if we both took hits and they had more morale hits against us, then we have to retreat. We have different. I started showing you the faces of the dice before I jumped into this. So anyway, so on the green die, we've got advancing, we've got event cards, we've got advancing and taking a hit. So, for example, if they were full strength, they would drop down to 9. We have the same with we've got an advance, we get a ranger special event. We get advance with a German special event. We get a stop sign, which basically means our turn ends and we're not allowed to consolidate. We're done. We're done with our turn. We also have advance with a hit. And we also have the advance with a variable hit, which depending on where we're at, if we're at C, like I showed you before, we were at in the C zone where our landing craft took damage as opposed to our unit. But once we're on land, something like that, that would count as 2 hits and an advance. And of course, there we once again have taking an event card. We're pushing our luck, right? So if we wanted to roll our red die, we're looking at, this would be advance 2, but take 2 hits. Advance 1, Ranger. Advance 2, German special event. And then we get stop sign and an event card. And then we get shaken. So that is a morale effect, and it gives us penalties. Then on the black die, this is one where we're really pushing our luck. We have the same kind of advances, but usually it's like we get an advance 3, but we take a hit. We also have the shaken, and we have the rout. Now, rout is the one that can be really bad. So as an example, let's say we're up here with Dog Company, and their rally point is all the way back here. So if we were to roll a rout, then that means Dog Company has to return back to its rally point, and they take the number of hits that they have to go. So not only do they go all the way back here, they would be reduced. Their strength would be reduced. Let's see where we go. Come on, where are you? It's like every time I'm looking for a specific counter, I can't find it. I just had a bunch of them and I tossed them out. There we go. So we'd be back here. So as we're playing, as we're moving our troops and stuff, a lot of times you're actually going to have to take that special action. You're going to spend an advance to use a special action and maybe send strength points over to the other unit. So that will happen quite a bit. This is not an easy game to win. I'll tell you that right now. And but that's kind of how Herman likes to design his games, to make the games a little bit difficult. Not difficult, challenging. It's a challenging game. Once again, you get good dice rolls, game's gonna be, easier. If you get bad dice rolls, if you're pulling out the gun placement locations and you're not finding the guns to take out, and time is just being whittled away, this can turn out to be a complete failure as far as the missions. I have had that happen. I have played this and not gotten enough victory points, not only to get a successful mission, but to have been a complete failure. So it does happen. Usually something like that, right off the bat, things are going to be tough when you lose some landing craft at sea. You're like, okay, this is not going to end well. So eventually what you're going to do is one of two things are going to happen to end the game. You're either going to run out of time, or the relief column is going to arrive, and that is going to end the game. When that happens, that's when you're going to rack up all of your victory points. And once again, you can track your victory points as you go, but you're going to get victory points depending on when you captured the German guns. You're going to get, there's fortunes of war counters that you can get. You've got your Ranger casualties, you got your German POWs, and so on and so forth. So, as I mentioned earlier, you need at least 75 victory points for like a minimally successful mission. Anything less than that is a failure, and of course, the fewer victory points you've got, the bigger a failure it is. There's other stuff going on. I mean, you'll run across obstacles. You can have units get heroic actions. You can find craters for cover. The events are really cool. I really like the events because there's all different stuff going on that really, really ramps up the replayability of Crowbar Rangers at Pointe Du Hoc. All in all, I really dig this quite a lot. We're going to swing on over to the other camera, and I'm going to share my final thoughts and give you a review score as well. All right, there is a bit of a how to play and some thoughts about Crowbar, the Rangers at Pointe Du Hoc, June 6th, 1944. Be the entire title there, right? Allow me to provide some final thoughts, and I will give you my review score as well. Before I do that, though, I do want to mention there were quite a few different things that I did not go really into or even talk about as far as the bit of a how to play. And one of the reasons is I did not want to make this game come across as being way more complex than it is. So I didn't talk about the German counterattacks, which effectively is just the German units doing to the Rangers what the Rangers have been doing to them. There's also the special actions that you can trade in one of your advancements for. You've got your command actions. All of that stuff is just icing on the cake. Like I said, I didn't want to go into too much detail. We already talked about the game and we're showing off the game for about 40 minutes. So if I go into that, then we're looking probably at an hour easy. Plus, like I said, this is a perfect game for introducing people to the wargaming hobby. That said, I would not recommend this as the first game someone ever purchased. So if you were someone who's never played war games or board games, I think this would be a little too complex to just try to jump right on into and cut your teeth on. That said, if you were a board gamer who's looking to get an introduction into conflict simulations, this is a perfect game to do that. And of course, it is certainly going to satisfy the wargamers out there as well. There's a bit of complexity to it, but nothing unwieldy. And I like the fact that there's meat on the bones of this game. Even though just kind of looking at it, you're thinking, oh yeah, you're rolling dice, just move in, pushing your luck, kind of like King of Tokyo. It's like not really. But anyway, so I just wanted to point out there is more to the game that I just did not go really into a deep dive on. So allow me to mention my minor critiques. So first off, I mentioned that the MSRP during the opening segment. I think it's a little high. I think $95 is a little bit high for this title. It's not outrageously priced or anything like that. And yes, I do understand it is a war game. War games tend to be priced a little more than a comparative board game because, for one, print runs are much smaller, much more niche companies. It is a niche genre of a niche hobby. So I do understand that, but I do think 95 is a little bit high. Not insanely high, just a little bit. Because for $95, I would expect to have etched dice. I would expect to have cut dice, not laser printed dice. And you may have even noticed in the portion where we're doing a little bit of the how to play, you may have noticed that my 6-sided dice are actually off center. So a bit of a production error on that as well. So yeah, I would have liked to have seen the etched dice. I also would have liked to have seen the tracking sheet that we use be cardstock, not just a piece of paper. That piece of paper is not going to hold up to repeated play. It's very thin paper. So you might want to go scan copies of it if you've got a scanner and have those handy, because I'm going to tell you right now, that sheet is not going to hold up. The reason why I mentioned these minor critiques is for the fact that without those, I would simply give Crowbar, the Rangers at Pointe Du Hoc, a 10 out of 10. That is how good this game is. It is a phenomenal design by my friend Herman Luttman. And I got to admit, I have never played a Herman Luttman design that I disliked. Maybe some of them, there were, I think, one or two that I simply thought, okay, they were good, but not great. Pretty much everything that Herman designs is fantastic, and I have given big thumbs up to, mainly because his check's always clear. I'm just kidding. Don't do anything like that. The only thing that happens is I happen to get a review copy of the game free of charge. That's what I get, right? I do not charge people for reviews. I'm just kidding. But I am not kidding about loving a vast majority of Herman's designs. This game is really, really well done. As far as playing, 2, 3, 4 players, yes, there's the variant in there. And we played 3 where each of us was commanding a company. And we had a lot of fun. We had a blast. But I wouldn't look at that as a big, crucial buying aspect of the game. It's not something that should sell you this game. You should look at this game as a solitaire game, and it is phenomenal at it. Some people might think, oh yeah, it's just, kind of push your luck, kind of King of Tokyo, rolling dice. Yeah, there's that the kind of pushing your luck dice rolling aspect of it, but there are a lot of decisions that have to be made in the game. There's a lot of chaos going on with the special events that take place. I love the fact that we've got the time kind of can telescope, and it can kind of compress. We start running out of time quicker sometimes. I really do like that too. And there are a lot of decisions and a lot of juggling and balancing that the player has to take on to be successful with his game. That said, even if you lose miserably, it's still a lot of fun. One of the aspects of Herman Luttman's designs, as far as I've always seen, is Herman is always looking to provide a narrative. And I am a big fan of games that you play, and once you finish that game, you've got a story to tell. Maybe it's a successful story, maybe it's a story of failure, but you have a story that sticks with you, and that is how Herman Luttman designs his games. And I really, really appreciate that fact, because I really, really dig that aspect of gaming. All right, so as I mentioned, a 9.6 out of 10. Big thumbs up. So that is it for this time out. Don't forget, catch me live right here on YouTube, Mondays through Fridays at 7 p.m. Central, as I bring you the Daily Dope and the latest tabletop gaming news of the day. And of course, if you like this video, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. And if you do, don't forget, ring that little bell, because that little bell will not only notify you when I upload standalone videos, such as this review, it'll also tell you when my stream goes live within about a minute or so. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Once again, I am Jeff McAleer. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, happy trails. Whoa, hey. I didn't realize that you were still here. Well, if that's the case, then allow me to share the following information with you that I only have 20 seconds to do. So let's all take a deep breath. So, if you would like to subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel, please click right here. If you want to check out the latest episode of the Daily Dope, click right here. And if you'd like to check out a randomly selected standalone video, by all means, click right here. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and thanks for watching.